EU5 didn't just make me stop playing EU5, it made me stop playing strategy games entirely. Here's why. I have over 1,000 hours in EU4. I only have 107 in EU5. That should certainly tell you something. There are currently days where EU4, a game released in 2013, has more concurrent players at certain points than EU5 does. Overall, EU5 has lost about 85% of its player base since launch. I was one of them. So what happened? This is a story of patches, of graphs, of a lost vision, and of a hype cycle that is pretty common with all the game releases. Let's start at the beginning. I love EU4. It's a certain type of person who spends 1,000 hours on a single game. You genuinely do it because you're getting paid to do it, not in my case, or because you really genuinely enjoy doing it, which is the case for most people who get really into EU4 or games like it. Now, as someone who was enfranchised in EU4, the lead up to EU5, I was consuming so much content, early access content. There was a Lemon Cake early access video, I was watching it. There was a Dev Diaries, I was reading it. There was a Dev Diaries analysis done by Ludi, I was also watching that. I was spending lots of time getting hyped, reading about, hearing about, discussing on Discord and Reddit, everything that was going to be happening in EU5. I was really genuinely excited for it. To give you an idea, I was changing my sleep schedule so that I was getting more sleep in the week leading up to EU4. So I was going to bed earlier, just so when it did come out, if I needed to, I could pull an all-nighter and just play the game nonstop. I was really hype about it. You can read on Discord, there's memes of people whenever a new game comes out, they call in sick out of work or something just so that they can play the game. I was basically doing that to 11. I'm saying all this just so you know, I was not a skeptic. I'm not someone who wanted the game to do bad. I genuinely wanted the game to do well. I was a true believer. I wanted the game to be everything that it promised it was going to be. I felt like every day there was new footage, new content, new things that we could look into, new mechanics that were being explored that hadn't been talked about, breakdown videos, things like that. Okay, release day, hype, immediate download, we're in. Now, as someone who spends lots of time in EU4, watched lots of content, early access content for EU5, and then immediately jumped into the tutorial because I want to eat my veggies for things like that, I found the new player onboarding experience to be lacking. The tutorial wasn't bad per se, it's just because of the scope of the game, unless you were watching lots of early access content, lots of video breakdowns, and things explaining, and tutorial videos explaining the game before the game came out, you were going to be pretty lost at the start. If you just heard the game, thought it sounded fun, maybe you're a strategy gamer who wanted to dive into a Paradox title for your first time, coming from something like Factorio or Civilization. Jumping into this as your first title, going in blind, would not have been a good experience. Although the hype surrounding the game might have made it seem like it was. So let's jump into my first experience. It wasn't the best, not the worst. I had lots of experience beforehand, so I just trudged through it. My first kind of real time playing the game was a multiplayer game that me and a couple of my buddies did, maybe 5 or 6 of us, the night of release. We all log in, we're all super hype. We know we all loved EU4 and had done multiplayer games before, so we're all excited to join in. We hop on Discord, download the game, queue up, get in there. I'm playing Scotland, start off at a civil war, that'll be relevant later. One of my friends is playing the Netherlands, another one's playing Genoa, another's playing Naples, someone's on the Ottomans. I think that's it. Anyway, it's really fun to play Scotland because you start off at Civil War. It's not trivial to win, but it's not exactly super difficult either to do it. If you're a human, bunch up your armies, go kill the AI armies. Because of the way revolts work, you're pretty much set after that. In a very stereotypical Paradox interactive gaming experience, we played for about 3 hours, helping each other, explaining things to people who hadn't been as enfranchised, who hadn't been following everything in detail. We quickly realized for our next session, we all kind of were okay just starting again because we'd all made various gameplay decisions, errors, whatever you want to call them. That meant if we had just started over, we would have had a much smoother time. And so we're all like, let's just start a new campaign again, as the same countries though. Restart is where things might go a little off the rails. So to start, after launch, the strategy that Paradox took for balancing, now that tons of people have access to the game, was, I would say, very shotgun approach. People would discover something on Reddit, on YouTube, on the forums. They would post there. People would get angry about a bug, about a stat or a balance thing. The devs would hotfix it immediately, only for us to then realize that that hotfix broke balance of a different system in a way that wasn't anticipated. I'll use the example that affected us kind of, is unique units. English longbowmen, pew pew. Scottish Highlander, French Musketeer, Spanish, forget what those guys are called. Certain nations would have unique units that were stronger than regular units. Some of them were counted as levies. Now, part of why this was a problem was that the percentage of your unique units that you would get would be based on your population and their strata. So let's just say it was 3%. You would get 3% of your population as English longbowmen. Pretty good. It's a problem with other surrounding nations can only raise 1% of their population as levies. Suddenly you're having 3 times the amount of units, and also they are really good because they're unique units, so you just go around stopping everyone. People quickly saw this, realized, hey, maybe we should tone that down. So it was hotfixed to 1%. This is a problem if you're Scotland and you have unique units and you start off in Civil War, you go from making 10,000 units to making 3,000 units. It's okay because the enemy rebel nation also has that. But now when you're facing England, even though their population cap percentage thing was lowered, like yours was, because they're a much bigger nation, this fight just got a lot harder. That's not something readily apparent from the patch notes because it's not balance of Scotland army size changed for XYZ reasons. It's the levy percentage of the population that can be raised changed. And it's not immediately apparent how that will affect everything. It doesn't automatically translate to Scotland is now much harder to play. The patch notes would often say what changed, but not what that meant, unless you had a really high level knowledge or had been playing for hundreds of hours already, like a lot of content creators had. I think this example really defines the early stage of EU5's development. Another example. People who play Paradox games are gamers. Very quickly, gamers everywhere who are playing this and my friend group discovered that it's really efficient to simply have a lot of vassals and subjects. So instead of conquering Ireland and owning it directly, coring it up and spending resources to make it your core territory, you could conquer it, then just create a custom subject. Now, you could make this custom subject one province, and they would have their capital in that one province. And because it's their capital, they'll send out control from there, and they're going to have a much easier time extracting value out of that land than if you were trying to own it directly and then having to core all of those provinces. So what often the meta became is conquer territory, create tons of tiny vassals, and then vassal swarm everyone. This was good because you could eventually integrate them when you needed to do that. And because unlike EU4, where you have a relationship cap, maybe 3, 4, 5, if you're really pushing it, and each vassal takes up one of those slots. In EU5, it uses diplomatic capacity, where a small vassal might take up 0.5 of your 5 diplomatic capacity. So you could really just have 50 small one province minor vassals, and that'd be okay. They wouldn't be upset or anything. Naturally, this is what the meta became. Everyone just conquered land, made tons of vassals. Another thing that we figured out pretty early on was that centralization, one of the value sliders in the game, was really good. It gave you proximity cost reduction, which made you have more control everywhere, which is really good because control's how you get money, and money's how you get buildings, and buildings are how you get troops, and more troops means more land, means more means more everything. So money's really good. It's usually the bottleneck. Being able to strictly have more money let you do pretty much anything you wanted to do in the game, instead of in EU4 where monarch points are the bottleneck. Centralization, really good. Naturally, we all take all of the privileges that grant centralization. We all take policies that give centralization. We push centralization with our counselors. And then devs knew this because they balanced a lot of the policies that gave centralization with some drawback. So if you had a policy that gave centralization, it might make your peasants upset or your nobles upset or whatever. If you had a policy that gave decentralization, which was bad at this point, you would normally get something good to go with it. So if you took a decentralization policy, you might get more monthly prosperity or more development or something that's good to counteract that. And so we were playing the game the way the devs were kind of telling us to play it, centralization maxing. We'd been playing about a couple weeks, then new patch hit. Okay, new patch rolls around, changes entirely how centralization works. We went from centralization being good, more money, more control, more crown power, to now all of us with our tons of vassal swarm. Centralization really makes your vassals upset. And they also nerfed how good centralization was as a stat. So you got not as much proximity control, you got not as much of the other good stuff that you were actually taking it for. It makes sense conceptually. Sure, your vassals wouldn't love you centralizing power away from them, but it was also, at this time, super meta to just have tons of vassals. Suddenly, we're going from maxing centralization and having lots of subjects, which the game had been telling you to do, by the way, to after the patch, it was really bad to load into a save and have all of your vassals super angry. So it was a double nerf. The thing that you built your empire around, centralization and vassals, were suddenly super bad together. And this was at a point where most people are coming home after work, playing a game for an hour or two, and they make it maybe 10, 15, 20 years. You do that for enough, and you come back mid-save, now it's the 1500s, you have your vassal swarm, and suddenly they all hate you. That person's not gonna be super incentivized to start a new save now that they've been burned a little bit. Looking back at EU5's development since launch, I think it falls into two to three categories. There's the shotgun approach of the early development cycle where patches were done on the daily, literally. There's the more steady stream approach, which they switched to, where it would be every 3 weeks, every month, we got a solid patch and people would just have to live with the bugs that kind of festered and got reported, which is okay. It's better than what came before. At the same time, people had to live with those changes that were in that patch. So an example of this was people quickly discovered that artillery was really good. It had a modifier which gave it minus 50% damage taken for being artillery. It was just something they got. But this didn't just happen if they were in the back row. It happened in the front row too. So very quickly in multiplayer lobbies, people just started making stacks of armies that were just pure artillery and just going around killing all the other armies. Pretty bad way to play. Also, cavalry was really strong for a long time. So even if they ran into another army, the fact that they were always taking half damage and just naturally as a baseline had really high damage meant they were pretty much the best thing to be building, period, for a time. Whether you were if you were in a multiplayer lobby with other humans, or if you were just in a single player campaign. Once you discover this, it's like, am I not just going to play the best army comp because I want to roleplay? Sure, you're allowed to do that, but if you're trying to win or get an achievement or play how you think is best, it feels a little bad for that to be the best strategy. Phase 2 I'd call overcorrections. We'd have wild swings between this being fine to this being fine to the meta shifting very rapidly. Recently, before Rossbach, which is the current patch I believe, there was the AI aggression cycle. People were complaining that nothing ever happens. This was a concern before the game even came out. There's this early access content creator who posted a time-lapse short from the start of the campaign to the end, and people were really shocked at how little actually changed from the start of the campaign to the end. People thought that, hey, maybe the map should consolidate a little bit. It's really weird that the Ottomans have not become the Ottomans even though they're supposed to do that. Or that, I don't know, Granada still exists, or the HRB is still fragmented as 500 little nations all clumped up. And this made people really worried because at this point the game had not come out. There was also some drama around what was happening with that content creator and Paradox. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that. You can maybe talk in the comments if you want about that. So we changed, devs decide to change the aggression cycle. France went from chilling with their vassals the whole game to now eating all of the HRB, all of Spain into England. If you were playing as a minor in the HRE, say the Netherlands, which is one of the recommended starts for the game, you would quickly get attacked by France and then attacked by England and then attacked by your neighbors. There's a couple good videos showing that effect of people trying this as a challenge, but it's also probably a big feels bad for someone who wants to jump into the game maybe post-launch, they're done some research, want to try it, log in, do the Netherlands because they're a beginner nation, recommended nation, and then immediately get attacked and don't understand that there wasn't really anything they could do because France is just 100 times their size at game start. If you were skilled in playing a small nation, inevitably we're going to consolidate for maybe 50 years and then get attacked by a larger neighbor. This was just how the game went. You could roll back to an old patch where the AI wasn't super aggressive, but then you're playing on an old patch with other bugs that isn't officially supported and isn't even the main patch. Why aren't you playing on the main patch? 1.1 has just dropped. There's army templates, the AI aggression has been tuned to now where there's settings for it. You can have them be passive, normal, or aggressive. There's an economic rework, so things are different there. And there's new content for the German region. Based on what I've seen and me following, it seems like this is the first big patch that's trying to fix things and that has a very clear vision for what it's trying to do. So I'm excited about that. So here's where I am. I have 107 hours in EU5. I have over 1,000 in EU4. And what surprised even me is that when I stopped playing EU5, I didn't go back to EU4. I just stopped playing strategy games. EU5 didn't replace EU4, it kind of just burnt me out of the whole thing. EU5 on launch day peaked at 77,000 players, which is a lot for a Paradox game. There are days now where it dips below EU4's concurrent player count. Again, a game that is 12 years old. Steam reviews have slipped from mostly positive to mixed for recent reviews. There's a 38-page long thread on the Paradox forums titled, "I genuinely do not like EU5, and that makes me sad." And I think that title captures how I feel. I'm not making this video to dunk on EU5. On the contrary, I really want it to succeed. The foundation is genuinely ambitious. Paradox is trying to do something that is a risk. They're trying to give people what they've said they've wanted for a long time. EU4 took a decade of work, DLCs that were very bad, patches that were okay, and then some patches that were not okay, but it took work to become the game that I really love. Every Paradox fan knows that. It's a meme in the community that a game is going to come out on launch. It's going to take 5 years of work, and then it'll actually be ready for launch. Not uninstalling EU5, I'm just not launching it right now. I'm waiting a little bit. And I want to turn it over to you guys a little bit. You guys have probably here for EU4 content, but tell me about your experiences with EU5. I've shared mine, and I want to hear about yours. Have you been playing EU5 at all? Have you gone back to EU4? Are you like me, still waiting on the sidelines a little bit? Maybe you're going to dip your toe in or out? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious and want to know.